Welcome to Writers Radio. I'm Ingrid Rose, host for our program, A Clean House, with Angela J. Gray. Angela J. Gray is a Jamaican-Canadian, an emerging writer and visual artist. Her forthcoming hybrid memoir, A Clean House, deals with children of the African-Caribbean diaspora adopted into white families, a part of Canadian history that is not well documented. Her work as a community addictions counselor and equity, diversity and inclusion facilitator is a valuable resource for her writing and creative work. Angela is a graduate of Vancouver Manuscript Intensive and a Canada Council for the Arts grant recipient. In A Clean House, we experience the complexity of transracial adoption. She and her twin brother William were adopted by Clara and Abatha, white parents who already had 3 white children, Susan, Anne, and Michael. They adopted John, a black child, and Myra, who was biracial and a year and a bit older than the twins. In this first excerpt, we meet the protagonist walking in Queen Elizabeth Park, trying to digest the unannounced visit from her parents.
There are flowers here at Queen Elizabeth Park. I imagine Clara's gardens are filled with red roses, pink begonias, orange marigolds, and others I cannot recall. I've not seen her gardens in a while. Here the tulips are blooming in colors of yellow, white, purple, and more. The rosebuds have emerged from their bushes, reminding the visitors they will be in full blossoms soon. The cherry trees are filled with different shades of pink blossoms. I'm awed by the cherry blossoms. This is my first spring in Vancouver. There's not been a day in the past 2 weeks that I've not seen a cherry tree filled with such color. I've been in Vancouver for 8 months now. I did not expect what seemed like 40 days of rain to pelt the streets 2 months after my arrival. The winter has passed and I have not missed the chill that comes with Southern Ontario winters. I have missed the sight of the sun that sparkled the snow during the cross-country skiing trips I once enjoyed. I welcome the freedom and hopefulness I feel being so far away from my parents and my siblings. I miss William. I wish that our paths had not split us. Today, it feels odd to be walking the park's stone paths with Clara and Abiather. I never imagined my parents would come and visit me. I would never have extended an invitation to them. And here we are, walking without the rain and suppressing our mutual disappointments and long-standing anger. I did not know they were coming until 2 days before their arrival. Mom and Dad are arriving in Vancouver tomorrow, Anne said via telephone. They have asked that you meet them at the Best Western Hotel on Granville Street. How long have they planned to come to Vancouver? Her voice quietens. I imagine that her head is down and her eyes are directed at something on her floor she will clean up later. We are both aware that Abiather and Clara should have already made this call. A while, I guess. And they did not have time to call me? I say more to myself than to her. So do you need the address of the hotel? Anne continues. Through her words, I hear her discomfort. To appease the anger she seems to sense I'm feeling, she says, "You know, they didn't have time to let you know. They really want to see you." I remain silent. She attempts again to engage me. "How are you doing?" she asks. "Fine." "What is that music you're playing?" "I like jazz. I have for a while. Goodbye, Anne." We do not speak again for some time. I am tired of how my siblings respond to the cool breeze that is the relationship I have with my parents. I asked myself later that night between glasses of red wine, how do I leave if 1,000 miles is not far enough away? Is there a place in this country that I can go and feel free? When will I stop doing what I am told? The idea of choice was not in the vocabulary of my bones. Rebellion, juxtaposed to succumbing, was the movement within me in regards to my parents' family and my role within it. Anne was doing what she was summoned to do, remind me where I belonged. I disliked so much the breeze that has often escalated to a harsh wind that is the love between my parents and me. I would counter mother's crossed looks and father's attempts to show me warmth with a disdain for the color of my skin. Self-deprecation was my default. Because of this dynamic, I would run. I tried to find people, places, other beds to shelter me. Vancouver is still not far enough away from my parents' benevolent love. The clouds hang over Queen Elizabeth Park. It is not gloom that clings to me today, while I fiend joy. What hangs on me as if it were a half-clean sweater is the deceit I feel. My lack of honesty weighs on me. I'm not excited to see them. I walk beside my mother. I see her watching me. Today, she likes my hair. It's slightly covered, pulled back, well kept. She seems satisfied that I look well enough. My father is pleased. I've chosen not to wear a lipstick that's too bright. Neither comment on my unhealthy, thin figure. I am in my parents' hotel room performing my duty. I hug and kiss my parents and Susan. My friend Maria has come with a platter covered with cheese and fruit. I phoned Maria after I spoke with Anne. I was hurt and angered by my parents' disregard of and expectation of me. I asked her if she was working that evening and if she would stop by. I'm not sure whether it is a good coincidence that my parents are staying at the same hotel where she works. Maria thought that bringing them something as if I had arranged it might help. It did not. My mother thanked Maria for being so thoughtful. Abiathar, after hearing my mother's gratitude, laughs uncomfortably as he pours a glass of red wine and hands it to me. I'm sorry we did not let you know sooner that we were coming, he says. I am silent. Maria excuses herself. I nod to her and say goodbye. I wonder how many miles it would take. My siblings do not know our mother hurt me deeply. They do not know because no one else was there to witness it. It is one of the reasons I endured so many headaches. It is why I went from an A student to an F student in my third term of grade 8. It is why I stopped running, even though I placed first and second in my county and age group for the 400 and 800 meters. I was voted all-around girl in grade 7 and 8 at my junior high school. My siblings do not see that my success was a barrier in acquiring my mother's love. How many times can a white mother beat a black child's head against a wood panel? During the spring of my grade 8 year, my mother's cool wind inflamed the embers within me. I chose to comply. I did so with a disdain for her that the smile I continued to carry hid. I decided to be good, but not too good. I perfected my tiptoe for a time. The wind moved my body, the sail back and forth between the white hands I depended on and the black hands I turned against myself. Now I am here with my parents, and they are paying for everything. I am confused. My parents have not supported my breath, my breathing, my living since the day I left their home. It is warm and moist, tropical in Bloedel Conservatory, a feature at Queen Elizabeth Park. I am surrounded by plants that began to arrive to this humid reprieve in the late 1960s, during a time when Black children were being advertised across Canada as an option for adoption by white parents. On display here, with lightly peppered leaves, are plants from rainforests across the globe. I wonder about how many have landed here from an African forest. I'm being educated about plants, a gift from my parents. I wonder about my ancestors, what my ancestors might have shared with me about the healing potential of this Jamaican pelican flower with its variegated white and maroon flower standing in soil before me. Nothing like I've ever seen before. A plant that is not native to Canada. A plant I imagine is not among the many plants in my parents' home. Clara and Abiathar love spending time in nature. My mother said once that it is where she finds God. I wonder if my father finds God in his work with the Salvation Army. I remember the days when I was young and he would canvass door to door in our neighborhood to collect as much as he could for their drives. My parents are good people. My siblings tell me this. They think I have a lot to be grateful for. I keep to myself my disagreement. My thoughts move from ideas about gratitude for good things to thinking I do not have to be grateful for any of it. My body is beginning to relax. My breath is moving deeper into my body. I'm not holding it. Something I'm used to doing when I'm near my parents. The warmth and moist air of the conservatory offers what I need now. My parents are distracted by the varieties of birds here. They are bird watchers. I'm struck by the color of the parrots, tangers, and finches. So many birds decorated in colors of blues, greens, and reds. I wish now that I had my own camera. I wish that I could mark this moment in time through my eyes. I wish that my narrative was the one imprinted and put into their photo album. I have to work this evening and will not be having dinner with them. My mother is asking for my schedule as she would like to spend more time with me. I will spend more time with them, and they will pay for everything. If I do not spend time with them, William will hear about it. He will then question me, exasperated by always being put in the middle. He does not have the same will to separate from our family as I do. I keep a piece of myself in this intolerable place with them because I fear losing him. We record this moment in time, an occasion with my parents. I imagine there's a photo album with a page ready to hold this picture. I wonder how many photos she has of her hosting beautiful moments. Susan finds a setting where the backdrop of the picture is overlooking Vancouver. This is what she does, guides her parents around as if she is their caretaker. I ignore most of what Susan says. I've grown to dislike Susan. I do not like her caretaking role and how she is also a go-between my parents and me. However, I follow as well. The clouds hang over the North Shore, casting a bluish-gray tint. I am smiling in the photo. My mother's frozen lips show a cool expression that is familiar to me. My father appears to be unsure about what is going on, unsure about what to do about the bad things we do not talk about. My black hands are wrapped around my mother. Her right hand appears to be touching my back. I do not feel it. I am smiling. My smile is not telling the truth. It is telling the adoption agency what it hopes is true.
Not easy to read, huh?
No, not easy to read. It's
Oh, it's
not an
very...
easy manuscript.
The mother's name is
Clara,
Clara, and the father's name.
Abiathar.
So that's a Scottish name, or what is Oh, it's a biblical name by the sound of it.
It is a biblical name, and it's interesting because actually I use Abiathar and how it's spelled on my adoption order. I condense the names. I picked that part of the name to use in the manuscript. It's not the name that he goes by. And Clara is not the name that my mother goes by, but they are their names. And it's spelled differently in the adoption order than what's actually on his tombstone. It's interesting because when I was at his celebration of life, which I did attend after not spending time or seeing the family for 16 years.
And how long ago was that?
He died in 2009, November 27th. At the celebration of life, one of the family friends. It's interesting about family friends because friends don't know all the stories, and they only see what they see. And so they were talking about Abiathar, and in the Bible, Abiathar is spelled with AR at the end, and Abiathar is a high priest in the Bible. He's seen as a leader and, of high authority and loyalty. It's interesting when we talk about family dynamics that he had the most power, right? And he didn't use the power he had to protect his family. He had a lot of privilege in the work that he did, and he was able to go off and do that work, and he was a provider. And I also know that, he was an engineer and he worked for Nortel in the early days, way back when it was Northern Electric and Northern Telecom. And I think there was a lot of privilege and a lot of freedom in having a position like that. And there was a lot of power, but he didn't use that power in a good way in his family at times, I think. I think that he could have put a stop to a lot of the harm that was happening there, and he didn't use that. My mother, who didn't have a lot of formal education when she was adopting children, went back to school and became a social worker. And John, he was the first adopted, who's about 3 to 4 years older than William and I, was in fact adopted from London, Ontario. He was adopted at the beginning of when Black children were actually advertised, and Indigenous children were as well. And this moved over to anybody that was deemed as hard to adopt, right? So Black children, using terminology from that time, handicapped or mentally disturbed children were hard to adopt and adopted. And in particular, in Toronto, they had a social experiment that really moved with this idea of getting these hard to adopt children out of foster care.
Angela is now going to read some of the poems that make up her hybrid manuscript, A Clean House.
A girl, Black girl, standing in the corner by the bleachers at the sports night of sports in the striped floor gymnasium. The Trojan endowed male species who yahoo and slap ass, proclaiming heterosexuality. With thumbs up saying no to the cute girl, not bad looking Black girl in the small town Canadianized America. whose parental forces say white guy, white football guys play no boy girl, girl boy games with the black girl at the dance hall, striped floor with pictured with yellow, green, red stripes for the runners of baskets awarded at the sports night where the white stars meet no black beauties. Because you girls should be of your own kind. I didn't say that dancing to Michael Jackson's before Thriller time, thinking breakdancing and moonwalking's cool. So I'll dance with you, stiff jointed, not to the same beat as the white girl before you, because we aren't racist here, no sir. But I see no First Peoples on the football team getting awards at this dinner. I am wearing flowered dress with flowers in my hair from the Afro Jungle Beat. You all know I didn't walk from that boat yesterday. And yes, I was in the basketball game doing my part, sitting on the sideline while my coach says, "Hey, Blackie, I mean, your turn. Shoot a hope or two, okay?" But no improvement awards are worn in dance shoes. I wasn't the black star, and to him, she's black. Throughout the Ontario bloom season, I spied Mother getting out of her cars. Brown Mini, yellow Omni, red Sunbird, with trays of pansies and marigolds and an assortment of other flowers I hadn't yet discovered their names. She planted flowers. Pink roses bloomed in her garden. August saw the passing of yellow blossoms to show ripe cherry and field tomatoes that topped summer salads and toasted buttered bread. The chives and rhubarb returned each year. Her kitchen, through to fall, smelled of rhubarb crisp. Chives were the herb of choice on scrambled eggs. The avid gardener became her pastime, the pleasure her babies once brought, gone. In their place, a troubled teen. Grandbabies have yet to arrive. She was preoccupied with social worker distress, a duty more important than mothering. She lied down on the couch between the two windows overlooking the front gardens. She spent 2 hours of time weeknights. Her husband working, those left in the home couldn't disturb her. She lost herself there on the couch. Maybe she was thinking about the murmurs she heard about sibling hatred that exceeded the normalcy of rivalry. Her gardens, her couch, the house she hoped the neighbors loved, she hid herself in, locked like the women she helped and testified against. The baby she adopted didn't take away what she was. They helped her become her, meshed in the hypocrisy, the social worker helping. This child couldn't touch her as deeply as the rose garden she planted. Dancing to Get Down on It, singing Edie Beckrell's Stay a While, while rinsing dishes staring at the cherry blossoms on a Saturday morning in May. Smelling lilac blossoms deeply, then sneezing for 10 minutes. Hearing my son say I love you. Hearing my son say I love you. Hearing my son say I love you. Yelling at your white mother, when are you going to own what happened in your home? Getting up and going to work anyway. Being able to smile at another Black person when they smile at you because you no longer fear yourself. Remembering the triumphs in grade 8, even though you had to give them up, the cost was too high. Learning another language anyway. Telling your white brother to fuck off. Hearing Ella and Louie pair it up good. Admitting you didn't love your white parents, you feared them, their money, their payments of nothing, while thanking them for your love of jazz, classical music, and public broadcasting. saying you are black as you will be, it is something that you got here, that you can laugh, that you can love, that kindness isn't foreign and hatred isn't your default. This is a failed adoption to me, and I do feel that Children's Aid and the Toronto, all those involved in this experiment, that nobody ever knows what the outcome is going to be because nobody tests it. They just start it out, they do it, and then they let it go, and it becomes a document on a shelf. But these are people's lives. My experience with adoption isn't necessarily my brother's experience with adoption. And there's reasons for that. There's his makeup, who he is as a person. There's gender bias. There is white and black privilege bias. The male children in our home, in society, they just got more privilege. It doesn't mean that he didn't experience things that he shouldn't have experienced. He did. It's not my story to tell.
Yeah.
I don't think this system did enough to keep us together because I had to move 2,000 miles away. I had to. It was the only way that I could live.
You've been listening to excerpts from Angela J. Gray's A Clean House on Writers Radio. I'm Ingrid Rose, and grateful to the behind-the-scenes work of my co-host and co-producer, Carol Harmon, and the talented Gary Sill, whose original music and invaluable technical skill makes Writers Radio possible. Thank you, too, to you, our listeners.
You have been listening to Writers Radio, a non-commercial collaborative project which presents talented writers reading their own work. These stories, essays, and conversations revisit the long tradition of oral storytelling that connects us to the inspiration behind the words. Be sure to check the website, writersradio.ca, to subscribe to our free notifications list. It's also a way of letting the writers know you are there and appreciating their creative work.
Writers Radio broadcasts from Half Moon Bay on the Sunshine Coast in Canada, traditional tribal land of the Sechelt Nation of the Coast Salish peoples. We express our gratitude for their wisdom teachings and land stewardship.